Welcome to Art Destinations. In our wrap-up of the Lutruwita Tasmania season, we explore the relationships between art, place and belonging as shared by 10 artists and writers. Hello, my name is Sarah Rhodes, an artist based in Lutruwita, Tasmania. I am the host of the fortnightly conversations with artists and thinkers living and or working on islands situated off their mainlands, to see how these unique places shape imaginations. This season follows on from our Venice series and will be followed by Sicily, co-produced by Alfio Puglisi, Gallery Director of the Sicily Art Residency Programme in Lingua Glossa on Mount Etna Nord. While these artists and writers represent only a small cross-section of voices, their stories resonate with universal themes of belonging and connection to the environment. Across the series, we investigate recurring themes evident in the Venice season, including how the cultural memory of a place influences an artist's practice. We look at how artists use their platform to raise awareness about the environment and question whether their art is political. This is particularly interesting in both Venice and Tasmania, where environmental issues are front of mind, and the landscape cannot merely be a backdrop but an active participant. In the Lutruwita Tasmania series in particular, it becomes clear that those working in Tasmania are working in more remote locations and often in a solitary way, compared with the more collaborative nature of the Venetian lagoon. Interestingly, through the artist's isolation, some are looking to other peripheries such as Svalbard in the Arctic to find a connection and a shared experience. As one of the world's leading philosophers on place, Jeff Malpas's focus has been on the role of place in shaping who we are. He explores how ideas evolve differently in the cities, the centre, versus the islands, the periphery. This conversation with Malpas in episode 2 lays the foundation for the Lutruwita Tasmania season as it frames the role of place in the work of artists and writers we are in conversation with. Many artists make distinctions between art as activism, political art, and art exploring conservation ideals. For Matthew Newton, the goal of his work is to effect tangible change. As a visual communicator and activist, Newton's photography raises awareness of issues such as old-growth logging and biodiversity conservation. His images, published in Australian Geographic, the Australian newspaper, The Guardian and the New York Times, among others, aim to be a call to action. David Stevenson, on the other hand, views his work as philosophical rather than political. His art, which often examines humanity's impact on the environment, is a means of asking questions rather than advocating for solutions. His multi-panel photographic series documenting the proposed site of the Franklin Dam, created during the blockade in 1982, was acquired by the Museum of Contemporary Art in Sydney, among other institutions. For Stevenson, the act of making is about exploring ideas through the medium itself, engaging with its possibilities to reveal new ways of understanding. Similarly, printmaker and painter Raymond Arnold's work responds directly to the geography of Queenstown on Tasmania's west coast, a landscape ravaged by irresponsible mining practices. Arnold's practice is deeply embedded in this community, exploring themes of recovery and resilience. Queenstown becomes a microcosm of global issues. What happens when we exploit the land we live on? How does it affect its people? Like Stevenson, Arnold believes in the power of the process. Whether through printmaking, painting or photography, both artists engage deeply with their mediums, using their tools to reflect on place and its significance. Marshall McLuhan famously wrote "The medium is the message" in 1964, a sentiment echoed by these artists. For them, each tool has its own language, and their task is to explore that language's potential. Stevenson's photography interrogates the concept of time, geological time, deep time, and human time, while Arnold's printmaking examines how materials and process become diaristic in how they reveal truths about place. Many artists spoke of their practice as a solitary dialogue with nature, an act of listening. Yet this solitude does not imply isolation. Malpas's assertion that thinking is always connected to the world around us resonates with Troy Ruffles, who in episode 4 says, "I place a great deal of value on that time alone, but not alone, because I'm with the world, I'm with myself." Ruffles begins his day with ocean swims and ends it by a fire pit, grounding himself in the elements. His multi-elemental artworks are a testament to his deep engagement with place, breathing in the atmosphere of his surroundings and exhaling it into his art. Zoe Gray, by contrast, experienced the alienation of being in an unfamiliar landscape during a residency on Svalbard, an island north of the Norwegian Arctic Circle. Gray expected to feel at home due to its peripherality, much like her native Marrawar on Tasmania's west coast. Instead, she was being overwhelmed by being alone in an inaccessible Arctic landscape. Seeking solace, she found comfort in the coastline, recognising the ocean as a shared, unifying presence that would connect her with the shore of her family home. Ellen Dahl investigates the shared challenges faced by peripheral regions like Lutruwita and the Arctic. Her work draws parallels between coal mining in Svalbard and hydroelectric projects in Tasmania, highlighting the universal tensions between human activity and environmental preservation. For Pat Brasington, place is neither isolated nor connected, but something imagined. Referencing Anisha Kapoor's quote, "A lot of my works are about passage, about a passing through, and that necessitates a place." Brasington suggests her work is deeply grounded in place, because that is where she is situated, but that place is not the subject of her work. Instead, she uses surreal imagery to explore feminist ideas. But how has living on an isolated island shaped her imagination? To what extent did her childhood memories of being quarantined in her bedroom after she contracted poliomyelitis nurture her creative world? Does Brasington's work reflect this inner landscape? And to what extent is it shaped by Tasmania's atmosphere and remoteness? Many of the stories shared in Lutruwita episodes describe closed, isolated worlds that most of us will never have the opportunity to experience. Adam Thompson's short stories explore Indigenous cultural practices, from mutton birding to fishing, offering intimate glimpses into Palawa Pakana life. Matt Newton's work with scientists on the remote Albatross Island documents the fragile existence of the shy albatross. Lisa Garland's 25-year-long project portraying people and places captures the essence of community and a slower bygone way of life. Through these narratives, a paradox emerges. Isolation often creates connection, connection to place, community, and shared global challenges. And these stories echo similar themes explored in Art Destination Season 1, Venice. Through each season of Art Destinations, we explore what it means to live and create on islands that sit just off their respective mainlands. In comparing Season 1's focus on Venice with Season 2's exploration of Lutruwita, Tasmania, we've discovered ways the paradox of isolation and connection play out in each place. These conversations offer first-hand insights into what it's like to live and work on the periphery, far away from centres where ideas often converge. Venice, while it's physically an island, its identity is anything but isolated. For centuries, Venice has been a crossroads of global trade and cultural exchange, layering its history with a rich blend of influences. Yet what stood out in our conversations with Venetian artists is their embrace of the idea of the periphery as a source of strength. They point to the smaller, lesser-known islands in the lagoon as spaces of innovation and renewal, places where marginality becomes an asset. By stepping away from the centre of Venice proper, artists are decentralising their focus and collaborating in these overlooked spaces to reimagine the future of the lagoon. It's a reminder that creativity often thrives at the edge. The lagoon itself, with its fragility and beauty, has inspired countless reflections on global environmental issues. Projects like Microclima's Floating Cinema challenge how we think about Venice's waterways, turning them into communal gathering spaces rather than places of transit. Meanwhile, initiatives like Enrico Bettinello's collaborations with African fiction writers in Wetlands Books showcase Venice's layered hybrid identity, a place where diverse stories and cultures meet. Conversely, in Lutruwita, Tasmania, the concept of the edge takes on a more existential dimension. Being located at the geographical edge of the world shapes artistic practice on the island, often resulting in deeply personal work. The remoteness of Tasmania from mainland Australia and the wider world has historically reinforced a sense of separation and self-reliance. Across both seasons of the podcast, one thing becomes clear. Being on the edge, whether geographically, culturally or conceptually, makes for opportunity. Ultimately, Venice and Lutruwita, Tasmania serve as powerful metaphors for navigating the tensions between isolation and connection, tradition and transformation, the local and the global, the centre and the periphery. Through these explorations, we see how peripheral places shape art and thought, offering fresh perspectives on how we engage with the environments that surround us. Thank you for listening to Art Destinations. We look forward to presenting Season 3 Sicily to you soon. Please sign up to our newsletter on our website artdestinations.org and subscribe to our Instagram page, artdestinations.podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rhodes. Ciao for now.